Okay, stats, here goes section 8.2. A little bit different opportunity in the middle of this. I snuck in there for you guys some multiple choice questions to do, just to make sure that you can prove you know what you're talking about. So in section 8.1, we discussed the significance level as an alpha. If the problem doesn't give us an alpha, which I called a Jesus fish, we'll assume alpha is equal to 0.05. But it doesn't have to be 0.05. It could be something different. So look at the directions and see if it ever gives you anything different. So here are reasons why you could have something other than 0.05. If you use alpha equals 0.01, that's a 1% chance of something happening. And so you would have to come up with a sample with an X bar or a P hat that's so far away from the suggested number, there's less than a 1% chance of your sample happening. Okay, so in that scenario, you really want to have great evidence by taking your sample and getting an X bar or a P hat, right? You actually do a sample and it's going to be great evidence to reject a null hypothesis. So maybe rejecting the hoe would be hard for people to believe. And so you really want to make sure you take a big, giant sample, make sure that it's random, make sure everything is good, there's no bias in it. And it definitely clearly shows that whatever the null hypothesis was is definitely wrong. For example, a couple of things that are political monsters, like global warming or climate change. There's some people who really believe that's not an issue, and so we shouldn't do things like affect the oil industry because that's a lot of money for the economy. So if you're trying to prove to people who believe the oil industry shouldn't be changed because of climate change, you really got to prove something to them. So you'd have to have a really big sample where the sample would be so far different from, like, maybe, I don't know, weather from 10 years ago, that there's less than a 1% chance you would get a sample like you get, and that would be really good evidence, right? Okay. Rejecting the null hypothesis would be expensive. Maybe instead of trying to convince other people of other political thought processes of what you think is true, maybe it's for a company, and if you reject the null hypothesis and suggest that some number has changed, it'll be expensive for the company. They got to invest a lot of money to fix something. Or rejecting the null hypothesis might be a reason to change some laws. Like, it takes an awful lot to get government people to agree on anything these days, but if they're going to agree on changing a law, they need really good evidence. And so that's why you would want to use a really, really tiny 1% significance level. Now, if you use something like alpha equals 0.15, then what you're saying is the sample you got only had to have less than a 15% chance to happen. That's a really different number as far as percent chances go. So you only, in this case, want to have decent evidence. Like, at best, you don't need great evidence in order for you to reject the null hypothesis, which would suggest you should make some kind of change. Maybe rejecting the null hypothesis is something that's just kind of everybody knows it's the right thing to do. So you're just like, okay, that's enough evidence. Let's make a change here. Or rejecting would make your business look good. And if your business looks good and more people will go to your business, then that's good for you. Or rejecting the null hypothesis might help society move on for an overdue change of some sort. Or maybe you just want to make your friend look stupid. I don't know. You never know what you're trying to prove there. My point is the significance level is a cutoff number, and if your p-value, which you guys are supposed to do some homework with that last night, if the probability that you get a sample as far away as the one you did is less than this number, that's when you reject the null hypothesis. Okay? So I'm going to stop this video now, and I'm going to ask you guys to go through and answer 5 multiple choice questions before I get to today's notes. I do have to make one fix, though, so I'm going to give something away. Number 3, there's a typo, which is terrible because I'm going to give away the answer. So I'm just going to tell you that this is wrong. This should be that mu is greater than 0.07. It was typed wrong. That's kind of a hint at what the answer to number 3 might be. Why don't you guys check those out and then go to the next video.